We usually think of horror stories happening in spooky old castles or, deep in some dark forest. But what if the scariest things aren't out there at all? What if they're already inside, right in the places you feel the most safe?
I mean, really think about it. Your house, your own backyard, they're supposed to be your safe havens, right? But the stories we're about to get into show a really chilling truth. Sometimes the closer a threat is, the more terrifying it becomes.
So we're going to dive into 3 true stories where ordinary things like backyard campouts and shopping online become the setting for absolute terror. Every single one starts somewhere totally familiar, but ends in a place that's deeply, deeply disturbing.
Okay, let's start with something that's so innocent. A backyard campout. For 2 brothers, Chris and Scott, what was supposed to be a fun little adventure? Well, it turned into a nightmare that would stick with them forever. The scene is just perfect. It's totally normal. They're in their own big backyard. They've got a fire pit, some trees around them. They're roasting marshmallows, playing Game Boy. It's that kind of childhood fun where you feel completely untouchable, totally safe from the world. So after they finally fall asleep, Chris wakes up. It's pitch black in the tent, and he's totally disoriented. And you know that initial moment of confusion when you wake up somewhere weird? Well, that feeling quickly gets replaced by this cold dread that something is just wrong. His brother, Scott, isn't there. His sleeping bag is just empty. And that's the first real jolt of fear. Okay, maybe he just had to go inside to the bathroom, but then Chris notices something that makes absolutely no sense. The tent is zipped completely shut. There's no way Scott could have gotten out without unzipping it. And this is the detail that really changes everything. The fear goes from just being worried to this deep, logical terror. It doesn't add up. So, trying to be brave, Chris unzips the tent just a tiny little bit to peek out. And sitting there, by the embers of the fire, it isn't his brother. It's a grown man. And he's just staring right at the tent. Chris yanks the zipper back up. His heart is just pounding in his chest, and he dives into his sleeping bag like it's some kind of shield. He hears the man get up, and then a shadow just falls over the tent. He's right outside. The zipper starts to slowly creep down, and through this tiny little gap where it doesn't quite seal, Chris sees it. An eye, pressed right up against the fabric, staring directly at him. And then, it smiles. That's when he finally screams. You'd think that would be the end of it, right? The terror's over. Nope, not even close. Weeks go by, and he's at school, during recess, and a man calls out to him from the other side of the chain-link fence. The man asks for some directions, calls Chris by his first name, and then, with this little smile, he drops that bone-chilling question. Chris just bolts. The man disappears, and it proves this wasn't just some random encounter, it was targeted. And whatever it was, it knew how to find him. That idea, that violation of safety, that the threat knows you and can find you, that brings us to our next story. And this one starts with something tons of us do all the time, trying to find a good deal on Facebook Marketplace. But this pickup turns into something way, way more sinister. Right from the beginning, something just felt off. The seller's messages were super short, almost weirdly so. Then he gets to the house, this huge mansion on a cliff, and there's a post-it on the door, "Use back door." As he walks around, he notices every single window blind is pulled shut, and once he gets to the back, he messages the seller and gets total radio silence. So he's waiting around, getting annoyed, but the view of the ocean is just incredible. He figures, what the heck, and walks down to the edge of the cliff to take a picture. And this little decision, just to kill some time, is what sets up the story's absolutely terrifying climax. Because when he turns around to head back to the house, something has dramatically changed. In just those few moments that his back was turned, every single blind in that house has been pulled wide open. And this is where it gets really nightmarish. In each window, there's a person, standing perfectly still. They're not moving, they're not waving, they are just standing there. And every single one of them is smiling. It's this coordinated, completely silent, and unbelievably creepy display. He gets out of there, obviously as fast as he can. Later on, he actually manages to contact the real owner of the house, who tells him he wasn't even in town that weekend. The listing was a complete fake. They found all the doors to the house unlocked. It was some kind of elaborate trap, and he was lured to that backyard for, well, who knows what reason.
So the horror of that cliffside house was its silent, coordinated threat. This final story, though, it's a different kind of home invasion. It doesn't start with a lure online. It starts with a single, impossible sound in the middle of the night.
So the guy telling the story is just lying in bed, scrolling on his phone. He'd had a party earlier, but that was hours ago. The house is locked up tight and his parents are out of town. It's, the very definition of a quiet night at home.
And then he hears it, a sound that just does not belong. And not some little noise either, the loud, unmistakable sound of someone jumping into the backyard pool. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. He knows for a fact that everybody went home.
What's so creepy here is just how methodical it all is. He looks out his window and sees a tall guy just calmly swimming laps. Then the man gets out, walks straight to the sliding glass door, which our narrator knows he locked, and just opens it. And then he hears them. The wet, slow, deliberate footsteps coming up the stairs, heading straight for his bedroom.
He slams and locks his bedroom door, calls 911. The intruder tries the handle. It's locked. Then he knocks. The narrator screams that he's on the phone with the police, and the voice that comes back from the other side of the door isn't yelling, it isn't angry, it's just a low, calm voice that says, "It's me, open the door," as if he's supposed to be there, as if it's the most normal request in the world.
Okay, so 3 very different stories, 3 different homes, but they all share this same terrifying DNA. Let's break down this anatomy of fear that we can all, unfortunately, understand.
You see, each story kicks off by taking a safe space, a backyard tent, a private home, a family pool, and violating it. The threat is always a total unknown. A man with no clear motive, these silent, smiling people, a weirdly calm intruder. But the part that really sticks with you, the truly terrifying part, is what's left behind. The unanswered questions. Who were they? What did they want? That not knowing, that's what lets the fear just linger forever.
And really, that's the whole point, isn't it? These stories get under our skin because they feel like they could happen to any of us, anywhere. It really makes you stop and think, doesn't it? What was that noise you heard last night? And what if, just this once, you hadn't ignored it?